Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So just a couple of thoughts, and I thought I'd do it while the recording was on in case anybody is listening to the recordings who isn't here today. My thought at this point, and this is evolving, is that we will do service on the first Tuesday of every month in Tuesday Sangha, and we will do it on the third Thursday of every month in Thursday Sangha, which happens to be today. And we will do Keen. I'm only slightly confused, and if it confuses you, don't worry about it. We're going to do Keen Heen each time now, except when we're doing service. So we won't do service. Because we're doing service today, we won't do Keen Heen today. But the other 3 Thursdays or whatever of the month, we will do Keen Heen right after sitting. I was also and this is for people in the room, but it's also for people on Zoom. I'll just... Hi, everybody. You want to wave to each other? Hi. It was very sweet this morning that, I met the minister coming in, and he just said he just loves it when he comes to work because the sound of the children and the sound of somebody playing a guitar up the road, or in this case today it was compost and garbage trucks, and then there's Buddhists now walking back and forth, and we're walking into the church, and it kind of makes me cry, actually. You kind of have to look for what makes you happy these days in a world that can seem pretty crazy. Minister and I think we all, this is a good world. We're more and more going to embody it. So today the children were singing, part of what they were doing is they were singing this land is my land, but they were singing it in Spanish, as well as other things. So just a couple of things about forms is I hope that you at home have a beautiful place where you sit, that it has a sense of order that you're sitting down in. So here we have the chapel, and when we come in, we start doing this at the half-day sitting, is when we come in, and we'll help each other remember, let's just do a little bow to the altar. It's just an acknowledgement of we're entering space. We're entering, I don't want to say sacred space, but we're entering space with intention. If you want to say sacred, that's fine. We're going to start putting all of our handbags on the shelf over there when you come in, and lining the shoes up there, so we can really create more of a sense of this is a zendo. This is our zendo. I'm going to suggest, and to you at home too, because maybe you've gotten a little sloppy, or forgetful. I know that I certainly have, and it's wonderful to be remembering again. Is when you sit down on your cushion or your chair, let's bow to the cushion or the chair, and when let's bow to the chair and then bow to the room, which is bowing to each other and bowing to the whole world. Just a simple. And I want to say something could say something much longer, and maybe I will, but chair sitting. Chair sitting is... The chair is not supporting us. We are in relationship with the chair and with the whole world. So, again, take care of your body. This is an overview, but then listen to what your body needs. It's like if you're doing a cushion sitting, you sit your butt down. You roll your pelvis forward, the spine naturally comes up, and you create a sense of support and uprightness. If you lean back into the chair, or if you sit this way, sooner or later your body's going to tell you, if you're trying to sit in a cushion this way, that your shoulders will ache, or the posture isn't a rule. It's actually something very beautiful and active that happens. But you won't get to know it if when you're doing zazen, you're sitting in the chair and you're leaning back against the chair. So you might want to sit a little bit forward in the chair. And someone's told me once that because to replicate sitting on a cushion, the pelvis is open. So when you're sitting in a chair, one, it's really nice if your feet can touch the ground. So if you need to use a cushion, please do that because it gives support. And when you're in a chair, if you sit with your hips slightly apart, it will open up. This is a yogic posture. It will open this up. And it's okay if it's a little uncomfortable because I mean, this is not about creating pain or whatever, but it's like when you start to do yoga, or even if you've been doing yoga for a long time, some days you go in and you just think, ay, this muscle, I want to be gentle and help it remember this. So that's what we're going to try to be, helping our bodies remember in the midst of, again, we don't want to miss the summer days, and we don't want to collapse in the midst of a world that can seem a little overwhelming sometimes. So we're practicing being upright and present and creating spaces that help support us in that, and then it radiates out. Okay? They're not rules. I mean, they can seem like rules, but actually they're it's helping our body and hearts and minds align with the deep song of the world so that we can hear it and embody it and bring it forward, inner, outer. Okay. And service is that too. This is not a Japanese form that we're doing when we do service. I mean, you could say, I mean, anything we do, somebody made up. What we're doing is that we're entering it with our own bodies. Some people used to say that to Norman Fisher. Why are we doing all these Japanese forms? He said, these aren't Japanese forms for me. I've been doing them at that point 30 years, now probably 40, 50 years. It's like, this is just what my body knows what to do. So service is a dance. It just gives us a dance to do together. It gives us something to do together, and it has an ancient ground in it, so we don't have to make it all up. Okay. So the Genjo Koan. There are different ways of translating the Genjo Koan. That's Dogen. This is Dogen's fascicle from the Shobogenzo. Thomas Cleary, a Buddhist scholar, says the Genjo Koan means the issue at hand or manifesting the here and now. Shasta Abbey. Shasta Abbey's translations, there's a website you can go to. It's much more linear and westernized, but it can be really helpful sometimes if you get tangled up in Dogen. Just go to Shasta Abbey in the Shobogenzo. Their translation is the spiritual question as it manifests before your very eyes. Kaz Tanahashi translates it as actualizing the fundamental point. Norman Fisher says the koan of what is, or the koan of being, or the koan of the present moment. So what Dogen is, and what this fascicle, one of his most sounds of the world, is practice. This is not intellectual. That's also what the forms are about. This is body. This is practice. Seeing that on every moment of our living, the deepest spiritual problems arise and are here, and for us to enter into, whether it's practical problems, spiritual problems, emotional problems, whatever we think it is. The good news is we know there's plenty of problems these days. It's like, how do we be with it? How do we enter it? And if we look deeply enough, it's always a spiritual problem or question if you want to take it all the way through. Which is what we need to do, which is what Zazen is, which is what practice is. So what is this? If you pick up one thing, everything is there. Everything. You pick up the abortion issue, good heavens. Pick it up and just see everything that comes with it and look at it all the way through and all the way around. And then if you've got a bigger, rounder world heart view, maybe you'll enter the conversation and more from a view that may be more inclusive and helpful, as we all try to find some way in the complexity of this world. So we learn to just sit with it. We learn to practice with it. We learn to practice in birth and death. And the paradox of it. What is it? Is it this? Is it not this? Heart Sutra, form, emptiness. What is it? Because every moment is, don't pretend it's not here. It's like, don't pretend you don't have a life. Don't pretend there's not death. Don't pretend there's not problems in the world and the country. There's not issues around abortion. Let's not go over it. But let's find a deeper ground in it, and a ground that is eternal and wide open and universal. Let's keep breathing. You notice some days when things happen, news comes on, I can feel myself. It's like I have to breathe. Breathe with and for everybody. This is our practice. So we're going to do the first verse in the Genjo Koan. I'm using Kaza's translation here. As all things are Buddha Dharma, there is delusion and realization, practice and birth and death, and there are Buddhas and sentient beings. As myriad things are without an abiding self, there is no delusion, no realization, no Buddha, no sentient being, and no birth and death. The Buddha way is, basically, leaping clear of the many and the one. Thus there is birth and death, delusion and realization, sentient beings and Buddhas. Yet, in attachment blossoms fall, and in aversion weeds spread. Dogen, in general, as I understand it, will often in that very first verse that's the encapsulation of the entire fascicle, and then he will go into it, and we'll go into it, and bring forward different parts of it. But right there, that's what he's pointing at. So let's take that apart a little bit. Okay. So as all things are Buddha Dharma. Everything is the path. Everything is the way. Everything. Everything. There is then delusion. Delusion is the path. This is not the problem. You'll see, Dogen says, Buddhas know they're deluded. It's not like they got over deluded. They just woke up in the midst of deluded. That's what we're doing. There is delusion, realization, practice, birth, and death, and there are Buddhas and there are sentient beings. This is the way it is. Everything is Buddha Dharma. There is delusion. And if you think you're not deluded, look again. And there is enlightenment, and there are Buddhas. And if you think that's not true, keep looking. Who's the Buddha? When you take refuge in Buddha, there's the big Buddha, there's the many Buddhas, the myriad Buddhas, and we're also taking refuge in the Buddha in ourselves. So we are Buddhas, 16-foot tall Buddhas, and we are confused human beings waking up to become Buddha in this lifetime. Okay, that's one. That's an affirmation of is. Is. Now, what Dogen does is, and you'll see he does it over and over again, is not is. This is the world. This is, you might want to look again. What bodhisattvas know is that there's emptiness. Bodhisattvas know the is not, they know the is part, they know the is not part. It's not what you think it is. And then the third is. It's the same world, and it's completely different because it's transformed by the view of, and your heart, of the way you're perceiving it and entering it. So as myriad things are without an abiding self. So there is a self, there is self and other, there is suffering, and there is no self. That's one of the three marks of Buddhism. There is no self. And because of that, there is no delusion, no realization, no Buddha, no sentient beings, no birth and death, which is another way of saying that everything is Buddha Dharma and everything is empty of you and me and separation. It's all an illusion. It's just perceptive apparatus, dualistic perceptive apparatus. Everything, atoms, space, consciousness. Can you grab hold of it? Where did it go? There are causes and conditions. Pay attention to your actions, your thoughts, body, speech, and mind. And 100 million thousand causes and conditions are completely creating this moment and dissolving far beyond anything we can perceive. Sort of like that picture of the galaxies, but that's just the world as we perceive it is. Meet it this way, and it's not what you think it is. And Zazen is the embodiment of knowing that. Everything is empty of a separate self in its most fundamental reality. And how could you pluck anything out of this endless and constant flux and flow? So on the one hand, there are Buddhas, and on the other hand, there are no Buddhas. And then he says, this is the third, is not is. The Buddha way, and now he's talking about the practice of Buddha, is basically leaping clear of the many and the one. That beauty, I love leaping clear. Leap clear. Just each moment. It's all true, it's all not true. Leap. Leap clear. It's so physical. There's always lots of possible ways to interpret anything. And this is what Dogen does and what he plays in and why he's so frustrating. One possibility is there's the many, and all things are Buddha Dharma. And these are all different things. And the other is there is no abiding self and there is nothing solid here. Thich Nhat Hanh says interbe. And the third is leap clear. And when we leap clear, what we do is we bow. We just bow. We bow. That's what we're practicing. Just bow to this moment and then see what happens next. And then, what he adds at the very end, which is the most beautiful phrase. You can take any of this with you. It's like leaping clear is a phrase that goes with me. This one is, and yet in attachment blossoms fall, and in aversion weeds spread. In attachment blossoms fall, and in aversion weeds spread. So beginning with and appreciating the world as it really is and what we really are, we come to the world, the human world, back to the human world as it really is, with all of its suffering and confusion and delusion and our own human problems as they really are. Blossoms fall. Nothing lasts forever, but they're so beautiful. Don't skip any of it. I remember in India, I think the Hindu tradition, or at least on altars in India, they don't put the flowers in water. They put them on the altar, and because the whole process is, of course, the flower is going to wilt and die, and it's much more revealed in a certain way. I've always loved that practice. Love the flower completely for how beautiful it is. And it's beautiful because it's ephemeral. Don't miss that. And weeds grow. They get in the way. And weeds are amazing. I remember when I first went to Green Gulch as a guest student, and I went down in the garden, and I was one of the, they were training us down there, and they said, would you please write look up one plant and write a little thing about it, just get to know it. So everybody went and picked all the garden plants. I picked a weed. There's always been a contrary part of me. It's like, I love the weeds. Weeds are amazing. I mean, who made a weed for God's sakes? And they also spread, and they choke off other plants. So don't pretend, It's like Alan Chadwick and Harry Roberts, who were gardeners that taught us too, in fact, maybe you've tried this sometimes. I had a weed called cling. It's a common name, or bedstraw. And I thought, oh, this is the most beautiful. I really love this plant. It's a weed, but I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to pull it out. Do you want to know? You should pull it out. Or at least pull out most of them, for goodness. It just completely took over, It's like, pay attention to states of mind that way. Oh yeah, I'm going to study this state of mind. Yeah, well, study this state of mind and get to know it so that you can forget it, so that it's in the sense of you can let it go, because the things that are running amok in our minds and in our human mind is, please pay attention. And everything is life, and everything is beautiful, and even though we pull them out, we appreciate them, and everything just for what it is. So none of this is about overcoming human problems. I do not want to eradicate that weed. I just want to pay good attention to it and come into right relationship with it. That's all. Because it's a beautiful weed. So we embrace our lives as it really is, and understand over and over, and come back to how deep and profound and gorgeous everything is, even in the suffering, even in the difficulty. And then more and more we can forgive ourselves, we can forgive other people, we can enter these thorny and really difficult, well, they're more than conversations that are happening in the world right now, and hopefully bring some kind of presence and freshness moment after moment, so that we can all find our way differently. There's Layla Bockhorst, who's an old Zen friend, and she's from Montana. She told me to look at the series. Maybe you're not interested if you're not interested in Montana or rivers or mountains, but I'm interested in all of those things. It's called Life is the Land, and it's 4 different videos about how people have come together in Montana, and one could imagine that there are many different factions in Montana, and people really don't agree, but what they decided they all agree on is the river, water. We need to take care of it, which means we need to take care of each other. And they're beautiful stories about how people are coming together, and how rivers are coming back to life, because ranchers are talking to environmentalists and they can't stake out positions anymore. The river flows and moves, so how do we remember and enact this ourselves. Bodhisattvas. That's our practice. It's to see, open, take care of the relative, and know that it's part of such a great big mystery. And how can we be here, and how can we be of help? Is how do we express the two sides in each moment through each action, and to live it. There's no fixed way. The middle way is how do we do this? I have this image from the Montana video of just watch the river wind down this valley, and it's so interconnected. And you just can't take any one piece out of it. And everybody needs water. Water is life. Breath is life. Love is life. More and more awareness that the existence of the self is not a personal possession. Our whole lives happen at the intersection of self and all things. You're going to have a great time at the Tahoe Rune Trail. Just like when you walk, kiss the earth. Just each moment. Kiss the earth and know that the earth is kissing you, loving you back. Let it in. Birth and death, all of it. We can't prevent our minds from creating what it does, but we can wake up and know it more and more. And say, thank you very much, mind. That was a beautiful, very strong opinion, and I've got lots of them. And I don't intend to not act on the things that I care about, but how I act starts with Suzuki Roshi's everything is perfect as it is. Start there. Perfection. It couldn't be anything other than it is. Everything created, the whole 100 million thousand beyond comprehension created the world as it is in this moment. And it could use a little improvement, and it's up to each one of us. And it's not just our actions, it's our thoughts too. Watch your thoughts. I don't know about you, but I think I can get away with these things. It's like the little doggy that we're taking care of. He's so sweet. And then all of a sudden it's like, you can't predict it. He just goes, I think, Bobby, stop that. And then I think, Chris, pay attention. You just never know. But I'm looking pretty sweet, you know. Follow it all the way through for everybody, for the sake of everybody. Okay. Yet in attachment blossoms fall, and in aversion weeds spread. So the human world is radically affirmed. Things are affirmed. Our perception is affirmed. Problems. We know there are problems. And we affirm the beauty and the wonder and the don't know. And that's what bodhisattvas do. That's Genjo Koaning. So I wanted to, because my commitment is to bring a poem, some kind of wisdom from indigenous or people of colors to make this, to somehow everybody brings a different view. I can only know what I know. And I'm very aware as a white person and as a person of privilege and many other things. But I really want to know and hear other voices forever. I want to hear the plants. I want to hear the birds. And here's Amanda Gordon, called Hymn for the Hurting. Everything hurts. Our hearts shadowed and strange, minds made muddied and mute. We carry tragedy terrifying and true, and yet none of it is new. We knew it as home, as horror, as heritage. Even our children cannot be children. Cannot be. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive, and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days, while at the same time blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know we must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. Thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live. May we not just grieve, but give. May we not just ache, but act. May our signed right to bear arms never blind our sight from shared harm. May we choose our children over chaos. May another innocent never be lost. Maybe everything hurts, our hearts shadowed and strange. But only when everything hurts may everything change. Bodhisattva knows. Suffering is. Delusion is. Enter through it. Everything is alive. It's where and how change happens in this realm, is by breathing in and out right on this edge, no matter what's happening. In the deep acknowledgement, instead of, or as a practice of. Notice someone was conjecturing, perhaps more than a conjecture, that with what's happening with the whole abortion rulings is that the LGBTQ community and the rights that have been opened that were always, I mean, it's just the truth of it is the question of whether those could be taken away too. You know, what's and I could feel, and I even as I say it, I can feel my breath shorten, I can feel my body tighten. And yet, in attachment blossoms fall, and in aversions weeds spread. The world is. Take a breath. Then it is, but it isn't what you think it is, and it's not tight and narrow, although we may have to go through those kinds of passages. It's also wide open and full of creativity and possibility and love and fierce compassion. And but first, let it be perfect just as it is. And then the third is, you enter the world, it's the same world, but you enter it with breath and love, over and over, and we help each other over and over. And it's so wonderful to know that Dogen and wise people across time and space have always known this. And there's always been troubles of one kind or another. And this is our great, wondrous job as bodhisattvas, to be alive in this time. We'll find out what all of that means ongoing. So here's my thought, because we're going to do service, but I would like us to, so how about if 2, 2, 2, 2, how about if you get in, I'm going to put